Aloha, dear friends. Welcome to the Sunday morning devotional program sponsored by the Spiritual Assemblies of the Baha'is of South DeKalb County and Sandy Springs, Georgia. It's wonderful to have all of you with us today. Across the globe, the teachings of the Baha'i faith, brought to us more than 150 years ago by His Holiness Baha'u'llah, its founder, whose name in Arabic means the glory of God, have inspired and continue to inspire individuals and communities as they strive to improve their own lives and contribute to the advancement of civilization. Baha'i beliefs address such essential themes as the oneness of God and religion, the oneness of humanity, and freedom from all forms of prejudice, the inherent nobility of the human being, the progressive revelation of religious truth, a gradual unfolding of God's purpose with the appearance of each divine teacher, the development of spiritual qualities, which allow us to reflect the image God made us in, the integration of worship and service, with work performed in the spirit of service being accounted as worship in the eyes of God. The fundamental equality of the sexes, more widely evidenced in a setting of equal opportunity. The harmony between religion and science as an established fact. The centrality of justice in all human endeavor. The importance of education, particularly for children. And the dynamics of the relationships that bind together individuals, communities, and institutions as humanity advances towards its collective maturity. Again, welcome. We're pleased to have all of you join us. We'll begin with opening devotions. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking, and silence your electronic devices if you are speaking. Thank you. Bibi.
O Lord, unto thee I repair for refuge, and toward all thy signs I set my heart. O Lord, whether traveling or at home, and in my occupation or in my work, I place my whole trust in thee. Grant me then thy sufficing help, so as to make me independent of all things. O thou who art unsurpassed in thy mercy, bestow upon me my portion, O Lord, as thou pleasest, and cause me to be satisfied with whatsoever thou hast ordained for me. Thine is the absolute authority to command. The Bab.
Gwen.
O God, my beloved, my heart's desire, the Bab.
Dungting.
O Lord, make the beauty to be my food, and the presence my drink, and the pleasure my hope, and praise of them my action, and the remembrance of them my companion, and the power of the sovereignty my successor, and thy habitation my home, and my dwelling place the seat thou hadst sanctified from the limitations imposed upon them, who are shut out as by a veil from thee. Thou art verily the Almighty, the All-Glorious, and the Most Powerful. Baha'u'llah.
Elizabeth.
O my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor, and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art their helper and their Lord. Baha'u'llah.
Matthew.
O my Lord, this is a lamp lighted by the fire of thy love, and ablaze with the flame which is ignited in the tree of thy mercy. O my Lord, increase his enkindlement, heat and flame, with the fire which is kindled in the Sinai of thy manifestation. Verily, thou art the confirmer, the assister, the powerful, the generous, the loving.
I am the primal point from which have been generated all created things. I am the countenance of God, whose splendor can never be obscured, the light of God, whose radiance can never fade. Whoso recognizeth me, assurance and all good are in store for him. And whoso faileth to recognize me, infernal fire and all evil await him. Ernest.
O son of dust, I say unto thee, O all men's the most neglected is he that disputes idols and seeks to advance himself over his brother. Say, O brother, let these not words be your adorning, the hidden words.
Bibi.
O my servant, free thyself from the fetters of this world, and loose thy soul from the prison of self. Seize thy chance, for it will come to thee no more. The hidden words.
Matthew.
To discriminate against any race on the ground of its being socially backward, politically immature, and numerically in a minority is a flagrant violation of the spirit that animates the faith of Baha'u'llah. The consciousness of any division or cleavage in its rank is alien to its very purpose, principles, and ideals. Once its members have fully recognized the claim of its author, and by identifying themselves with its administrative order, accepted unreservedly the principles and laws embodied in its teachings, every differentiation of class, creed, or color must automatically be obliterated and never be allowed under any pretext. And however great the pressure of events or of public opinion to reassert itself. Shoghi Effendi.
Thank you to all today's readers. Next, we're going to listen to a healing prayer. If any of you wish to remember a loved one through this prayer for healing, please feel free to call out their name at this time.
John Haynes. Max Weiner,
Josie Reynolds,
Ilan Bowers,
Ariana Holadus,
Mary Freelove,
Thy name is my healing, oh my God, and remembrance of thee is my remedy. Nearness to thee is my hope, and love for thee is my companion. Thy mercy to me is my healing, and my succor in both this world and the worlds to come. Thou verily art the all bountiful, the all knowing, the all wise. The all knowing, the all knowing, the all knowing, the all wise, the all knowing, the all wise, the all knowing, the all
And now we're blessed to have a musical offering.
O Son of Justice, whither can a lover go but to the land of his beloved? And what seeker findeth rest away from his heart's desire? To the true lover, reunion is life, and separation is death. His breast is void
Friends, each week we're blessed to have a guest presenter share with us their insights on a particular topic. This week, we are honored to welcome back Mr. Iras Holadust. He's going to speak to us again on the life of Abdul Baha, and I'm greatly looking forward to his topic today. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Aloha, dear friends. I'm glad to be here. I was given the privilege of sharing with you an amazing story. And that story is from the life of Abdul Baha, is the play that he wrote, the only play that he wrote. So these remarks would be divided into 4 sections. Introductory section, I will say a few words and explain the setting. Then the play in 3 segments, which I awarded it the first act, the announcement, the second act, the believers, and the third act, the aftermath. So I hope I'll have your total and unreserved attention so you can really enjoy every bit of this presentation from the words of Abdul Baha. Okay, so you all know that Abdul Baha was in America, in North America, in 1912, and he left early December, and he arrived in London 10 days after, on December 13, 1912. A few days later, on December 22nd, Abdul Baha and his entourage and the few Baha'is who were there were invited to go to a church, Westminster Church, and then listen and enjoy a presentation, which was actually a play on the life of Jesus Christ on December 22nd, 1912. So they all went there, and Abdul Baha and others watched the play, and the friends who were around him noticed that Abdul Baha wept all through that presentation of the life of Jesus. After presentation, Abdul Baha went on the stage and talked with every one of those actors. Then he was invited to an adjoining hall where over 100 people attended, and he spoke both about Jesus and about oneness of the essence of all faiths and progressive revelations. Then a few days later, to be exact, on January 17, 1913, Abdul Baha was invited to the home of one of the believers. And that believer's name, who was also there with him in the church, her name was Gabrielle Enthoven. So she lived close to where Abdul Baha lived in London, and she invited him and the other Baha'i friends to come and visit her at their home for lunch or dinner, I'm not sure. And during the course of that visit, Abdul Baha asked Gabrielle Enthoven, "What is your main interest?" And she was in theater, and she said, "My main interest is in theater and drama." And Abdul Baha just then said, "I will give you a drama. I will give you a play." And he stood up, walking and sharing this play that Abdul Baha had composed in his mind, while the scribes, the secretary, was writing it down, and another one of his associates was translating it, writing it down and translating it. So that was the play. Now, Anthony And then by the end of the session, Abdul presented it to this lady, Gabrielle Enthoven. I'm not sure what she did with that, but I know that in one of the anniversaries of Abdul's visit, Gabrielle Enthoven presented it to the friends, what Abdul had written, and that was with a prelude that was read in that group. So I'll share with you what was those few words. Looks like a poem that the friends wrote while before Gabrielle Enthoven made the presentation reading the drama that Abdul had written. A couple other things I want to share with you before the play is that Gabrielle Enthoven presented or gave this play, the write-up, to another friend whose name was Mary Basil Hall. Mary Basil Hall, you may not have heard of her name, but you probably know the name of her mother, Lady Bloomfield, who was one of the early Baha'is. Basically, she presented it to Lady Bloomfield and her daughter, who was a young lady, Mary Basil Hall, who was also interested in theater. Mary Basil Hall spent a lot of time developing this short play of Abdul Baha into a longer play, and she published it in 1933. The book is still available, I believe, on Amazon. And the whole play, including Abdul Baha's write-up, which is 6-7 pages, you can access it on Baha'i Library Online. On Baha'i Library Online, if you go, you will see the whole play. The whole play that she wrote, this lady wrote, Mary Basil Hall, is about 60 pages. From what I found out, what I researched, this play was put on the stage of all places in Australia many years later, in September of 1994, in Australia, on the stage. Before we go to the play, I also want to share with you a passage from Shoghi Effendi, which was in confirmation of this play, and also in confirmation as a reminder to all of us that art and drama and play has an important place in our faith. And that, most importantly, I'd like everyone to make note and share with as many friends as you can, particularly those who are artistic and those who want to go on the stage and perform. This is what Shoghi Effendi said. That day will the cause spread like wildfire, when its spirit and teachings will be presented on the stage, or in art and literature. Arts can better awaken such noble sentiments that cold rationalizing, especially among the mass of people, does not. This was from a letter that Shoghi Effendi wrote to a friend with regard to this play and the publication, and the important role that that plays will play in spreading the faith of Baha'u'llah in the future. So let's remember that. So with that, I'm going to share what was shared in the first time that Gabrielle Enthoven presented this play to the Baha'is of London with this opening lines on the day of Abdul Baha. It says, Good news, good news. The doors of the kingdom of God are open. Good news, good news. Armies of angels are descending from heaven. Good news, the Son of Truth is rising. Good news, heavenly food is being sent from above. Good news, the trumpet is sounding. The banner of the great peace is flashing far and wide. The light of the lamp of oneness of humanity is shining brightly. The fire, the light of God, is blazing. The Holy Spirit is being outpoured. Good news, for everlasting life is here. O ye that sleep, awake. O ye heedless ones, learn wisdom. O blind, receive your sight. O dear heart, O dear, hear. O dumb, speak. O dead, arise. So with that, she went to the presentation of the play. There's one opening paragraph. Let me start with that opening paragraph, and then at the beginning of each play, I'll pause for 30 seconds. And if one of the friends wants to make one comment or one clarification, please do, so that it won't get monotonous, and I'll be presenting one act at a time. So the opening line that Al-Baha'i gives is this. The herald of the kingdom stands before the people. Wonderful music swells from an unseen orchestra, moving and soul-inspiring. The music becomes soft, while the herald proclaims the coming of the kingdom. He holds a trumpet to his mouth. The curtain rises. The stage is crowded with men and women. All are asleep. At the sound of the trumpet, they begin to awaken. Time for my pause and one comment, if anyone likes to say something.
Why don't we just move forward? I think you'll. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say.
Go ahead.
That's it's interesting that he talks about a trumpet, because I think there's a passage in the Bible or something that talks about the day of resurrection or something like that. It's being established by the voice of a trumpet or something like that. I don't know the passage, but
I know that there's a passage in Quran, and that when the coming of the end comes, that the announcement will be made with the trumpet, and actually the early believers to the Bab, including Mullah Hussein, who was moving toward Badasht, where they were going to have the conference, they started going that direction with playing the trumpet.
wow.
All right. Yes, so the playing of the trumpet is an announcement for this age. Okay. So the Act 1, the announcement. Suddenly the music breaks forth. The people hear and wonder. They rise and question one another, saying, "What is this? Whence comes this music?" Some return to their occupations unheeding. First, a few talk together. Then one ceases his work and proceeds to make enquiries. A merchant leaving his stall comes to ask the meaning of the eager group. A soldier who is practicing arms withdraws from his comrades and joins those who are wondering. Here is a banker is seen counting his money. His attention is attracted. He pauses in his calculation and asks, "What is the news?" There are seen dancers and others holding revelry. Some of them come forth and ask the news, questioning the herald. Now, those who come to ask are more or less divided into the following groups. First, those who, having heard of the coming of the promised one, frown and shrug their shoulders, returning to the work, scoffing and disbelieving. The second type are those who hear the music, strain their ears to catch the meaning of the message, and their eyes to discern the mystery. And the mystery that the blind receive their sight, the deaf their hearing, and those who were dead arise and walk, still wrapped in the garments of death. Then there are those who will not believe until they have had signs revealed to them, who crave for proof, saying, "But we want to see the earthquake. If the promised one is indeed come, the sun should not give its light, the moon should be darkened, and the stars should fall. We await our promised one till these signs be fulfilled. We expect to see him descend from heaven in clouds of great glory." So he said people who just shrug and go away, people who maybe ask a question, people who are waiting for real proof. And then those who believe, they shout, "The promised one has come." Those who doubt cry, "What proof is there? Show us a proof." They who understand explain, "Whence did Christ come? He came from heaven." Those who scoffed at him said, "We know this man. He comes from Nazareth." This is the real meaning. His spirit came from heaven, while his body was born of an earthly mother. As it was then, so it is with the second coming. "But we await the signs," says the doubting ones. "How otherwise shall we know? The earth must shake, the mountains be rent asunder. The promised one shall conquer the east and the west." One arises and tells the people that these signs did not come outwardly, nor will they again. Those who look with the eye of truth shall see that these portents are of the Spirit. The eternal sovereignty descends from heaven. The body is of the earth. The mountains are men of high renown, whose famous names sink into insignificance when the dawn of the manifestation fills the world with his light. The pomp of Annas and Caiaphas is outshone by the simple glory of the Christ. The earthquake is the wave of the spiritual life that moves through all living things and makes creation quiver. The prophecies of the coming of Christ were mystical. The prophecies concerning the second coming are also mystical. The earthquakes and unrest, the darkening of the sun and moon, the falling of the stars, all these foretell the humiliation of those whom the world considers great. The humiliation of those whom the world considers great. Theologians wrapped in blind traditions, the bigots and hypocrites, these are the ones who will fall. Now, these sayings will be divided between different people, altogether forming a conversation, questions, answers, exclamations of wonder, and so forth. Now a procession passes, the pageant of the world, grand nobles and kings, high priests and dignitaries of the churches, jeweled and gorgeously dressed. They look with scorn on those who believe, saying, "Why should we leave our ancient religions?" Now the poor who have believed look on sadly. And that is the beginning of the second act, which is the act of believers. So Allah set the stage of this drama and the herald and all these questions and answers, those who are really sincere in the search and those who are not, and so on and so forth. So any thought before we go to the second segment?
I'm personally intrigued by how allegorical it is. I wouldn't have expected that, actually. The use, I mean, on the one hand, it's very straightforward, but it's also, when you think of it as in terms of a drama, it's totally tossing aside the conventions of a lot of drama, and there's no effort at realism here, really. It's intriguing. I would not have thought that would be how Abdul Baha would write us.
That's not the way usually Abdul Baha writes, but this is a play that he composed instantly and so beautifully, after being also inspired by the play that he saw from the life of Jesus. And in many ways, this play is in many ways a summary of a lot of thoughts that Baha'u'llah shares in the Book of Certitude with regard to the allegorical nature of these prophecies and the real meaning of these prophecies in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, in Quran, and so forth. Okay, friends, let's go to Act 2. One arises and tells the people that these signs did not come outwardly, nor will they again. Sorry. So I read that passage. Sorry, I need to go to Act 2. So bear with me, please. So here, Act 2, which is now the believers. They watched all these saints, all this pageantry, all these unbelievers, all these people who ridiculed those few who had believed, who were mainly the poor. The poor who have believed look on sadly, like the early believers in Jesus Christ. The scene changes, a banquet hall. The table is spread with all delicious foods. The orchestra is playing heavenly music. The lights become gradually more brilliant until the whole hall is shining. Round the table sit the very poor in torn garments. An oracle arises and cries, "The kingdom of God is like a feast." Remember what Christ said. Here we see the kingdom. The greatest and the worldly wise are not here, but the poor are here. Each sings from the joy of his heart, and there is great rejoicing. Some dance, one plays the flute. Everyone is radiantly happy. Someone addresses the people. While this man is speaking, they say, "Hear him, hear his eloquence. We know him, he was poor and ignorant. Now he's wise." And so they wonder and question one another. A woman rises and speaks, laughing and happy. The people are surprised, saying, "But what has happened? Yesterday, this woman was sad and angry. Her heart was full of sorrow and disappointment. Why is she now so joyous? A man enters with a sack of gold and begins to offer it to the people, all these poor people. But they refuse, one saying, I'm rich. I do not need your gold, nor I. The man with the gold is surprised and says, we know you're poor and starving. Why do you not accept my gold? Then the teacher comes and speaks on a high plane of philosophy and science. All those who listen wonder, for he had been ignorant and accounted of no importance. How is he now so learned? Another comes with shining eyes, gazing with joy on the beautiful surroundings. The people wonder and say, how is this? Yesterday he was blind. Another hears beautiful music, and he tells the people that a few hours ago he was deaf to all sound. A miracle, a miracle. Here is one who was dead, and now he's walking before us. One arises and says, you know the cause of these miracles? It is the heavenly food. Everlasting life is for him who partakes of it. When the people hear this, they shout with one will, glad tidings, glad tidings, glad tidings. Each one is supremely happy, and they sing Alleluia. And then Abdu'l-Baha completes this segment with a prayer that he wrote in this connection. O God, we were poor, thou hast made us rich. We were hungry, thou hast made us satisfied. Athirst were we, and thou hast given us the water of life. Our eyes were blinded, thou hast given us sight. We were dead, thou hast given us life eternal. We were of the earth, thou hast made us the children of heaven. We were outcasts, thou hast made us beloved. We were helpless, thou hast made us powerful. We praise thee, O Lord. And after the song, so Abba wants this prayer of his to be formed into a song. He says, after the song, glorious diadems descend from heaven and rest on each head, on the head of all these poor people. They shine with the radiance of heavenly jewels. All wonder and ask questions. One arises and says, these are the crowns of the kingdom. You're all heavenly rulers. You shall have eternal dominion. You shall have everlasting glory. The illumination of the Spirit is yours. God has chosen you for his service. They take their crowns and kiss them, and again place them on their heads. Then they begin to pray and supplicate. O God, O Almighty, we give you thanks for these proofs of thy bounty. Thou hast given us life, make us faithful, so that the fire of thy love may fill our hearts, that thy light may illumine our faces. Suffer us to be firm unto Christ, who gave up his life for us. And the curtain falls. So this was the second act. Any one comment or reflection?
I really like that. That was really nice. You know, that the believers, the poor people, and the lights were shining, and the great rejoicing. The poor was very happy. The blind can see, the deaf can hear, and that's because of the heavenly food. Each one was so happy.
And the
And
dead rises.
each one had the glorious diadem rest on their heads.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Heavenly joy.
Just imagine. That was so nice to listen to. I really love to hear that. Oh my, that was so nice.
Most beautiful
Really.
play. Most beautiful
I-
play. Thank you.
I can imagine.
So we come to the last scene. I really wish and hope we'll chat a little bit more after the conclusion part, that we all, to the extent of our ability, if you're not actor, like I'm not an actor, although in the evening sometimes I acted in some theaters when I was teaching. But those of you who have interest in acting in particular, take this play, share it in feasts, in Baha'i gatherings, for children, for youth.
I'm not hearing. What happened? Not hearing.
You went mute.
Okay.
That's better.
Let me go to the last scene. In the last scene, one of those who believe is taken by the persecutors. We mean to kill you. And they respond, I'm ready. I'm happy, he answers. With hands raised to heaven, he cries, oh God, make me ready. Then he gives himself up to death. Another is taken and dies praising God and his mercy to mankind. The third is a beautiful girl in a white garment. Reminds us of Tahireh. The third is a beautiful girl in a white garment, wearing a heavenly crown upon her head. Everyone gazes at her in wonder. She is seated apart. A messenger comes from the king with an offer of great riches if she will but give up the cause which she has embraced. She answers, I have not accepted this cause blindly through tradition. I have seen reality with my own eyes. The truth is in my heart. How should I renounce my faith so lightly? Her father comes and entreats with her to give up her faith. She answers, can you say there is no sun when you have seen the light? I have seen the sun. You are blind. Awake. The sun is shining. Awake. Another messenger comes, this time from a great prince who wishes to wed her on condition that she gives up her faith. And she says, I have no prince save God. I will not close mine eyes to the glory of the King of Kings. They bring her jewels and an earthly crown. Take these, they say. And she says, these to me are so many pebbles. The jewels I treasure are the jewels of the knowledge of God. Those earthly stones may be broken or lost. Behold my crown. These are eternal gems. For those earthly stones are doomed to perish. Shall I give up this everlasting diadem? And they say, we shall imprison you. I'm ready. We shall beat you. I'm ready. You shall be killed. Is that true? Do you mean it? Good news, good news. For then I shall be free. My soul will escape like a bird at liberty from this earthly cage of my body. Then shall I be free. Now I'm in chains. These bonds shall be broken. Kill me if you wish. They slay her. One after another is martyred. Their bodies are covered with shrouds. And after a great silence, people enter and lift the coverings in awe and reverence. They stand wondering as lights appear and shine upwards from the prostrate forms. Some question as to the meaning of this. These are the spirits of those martyred ones, freed from their bodies. Now they enjoy eternal liberty. See, they ascend to the kingdom. Realizing this, the people are wonderstruck and amazed. They cry, what bounty God has bestowed on them. They are so free and joyful. Now can they wing their way to the sun of reality. Their souls return to the sun from which they came. And that is the end of the play. Friends, I think we have a few minutes for dialogue, I hope.
Yes, we definitely do.
And while we're getting ready for the dialogue, of course, this play then was written in 1913 by Abdul Baha. There were two plays before this about the faith. The first one, I'm sure most of you know or have read about, was by a non-Baha'i, Isabella Grinevsky of Russia, who wrote a play about the life and martyrdom of the Bab, and that play in 1904 was put on stage in Leningrad in Russia. And then it was played again in 1914 and in 1917, and she went and visited Al-Baha. And Tolstoy heard about this, read the play, this actual play, which was beautifully written by this lady. And the second play, which was written before the play of Al-Baha, was written in 1910 by the famous Clifford Barney, who also, dictated and wrote the what Al-Baha was discussing some answer questions. So you know about her as well. It's your time now.
It's interesting to me that you just mentioned Tolstoy, because I was thinking of Tolstoy when I was listening to this, because I write in many forms, but not drama, and so I was thinking, how does one capture in the form of, contemporary narrative novel or whatever it may be, these sorts of ideas, given that the style of the times makes certain things difficult. And it hit me that one of the things that struck me when I read War and Peace is there's this very interesting, rather lengthy actually, section of the novel in which one of the main characters becomes entirely devoted to a particular sort of Masonic kind of view of Christianity. And Tolstoy's way of presenting it was really striking when I first read it, because again, it is what he presents it as is an extraordinarily sincere religious commitment. And there's no irony, there's no poking fun, there's nothing but the sincere sense that this man has become truly enamored and convinced of this, and it's making him a better person. And it struck me because it's not something you see in a lot of contemporary literature. This very much more positive, or at least non-negative, non-ironic view of religious commitment. And so I was thinking about that. I was looking at it, and I ought to look back at that and see again, how did Tolstoy do that? And because that's what I think one of the challenges for the modern writer in almost any form is this culture of irony that has overtaken our society makes presenting sincere religious devotion increase very hard at times, actually, you know. But this is an interesting sort of way for me to think about that and how that one might do that.
Tulsa was very much, of course, touched by the faith with the Bab and Baha'u'llah, and in his writings he praises the faith and the vision and mission of Baha'u'llah and the Baha'i faith. Thank you.
Wynn and Ernest?
Any other thoughts?
I think Wynn and Ernest have one.
First of all, I was just enthralled. It's just so beautiful. And thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, because I had not known about this. And Ann Perry and her husband have done a beautiful job putting things on YouTube, like the Luminous Journey and some other things. And I'm thinking, with the beginning of the new 9-year plan coming up, perhaps the world is ready to have this be produced again somehow. And I will talk to Ann and make, where did you say you could find this play again?
You can find it online if you want. It's a Baha'i Library.
Okay.
Baha'i Library online. And also, if you have the book, Abdul Baha, The Center of the Covenant.
Okay.
It is a 550-page book written by Hand of the Cause Hassan Balyuzi. You can find it. You can find this play as an first appendix. Appendix 1 of this play. I can tell you exactly the date. It's on page 497 of this book.
Okay. Thank you. I think its time has come.
Yes. Thank you very much.
And how exhilarating when so many people are searching and there are no answers out there. We know all the institutions and everything that we have at our hands, which are no good anymore. How exhilarating to hear something like this that gives us hope and renews our faith. And thank you, because it was really inspiring. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So please, as much as you can, as far as you can, spread the word that Albo has written this play. Share it in as many feasts as possible. Practice it yourselves, as you know, as I practice it 2-3 times before presenting it to you, and so it becomes like a short play that you present, and then that could take off for more acts. And I also want to say that I'm so excited about this that I already shared it with one of the ministers, church ministers that I have befriended, the Unity ministers in Cobb County, and I'm trying to encourage him. In the next couple of years, maybe he'll put it on the stage. They have a good stage, and he himself has acting abilities as well. So we'll see.
By the way, I put the website for Baha'i Library. It's baha'i-library.org. And I put it in the chat if anyone wants to look for it.
Wonderful.
They have a whole bunch of all kinds of things, actually. So.
Yeah, and when you put this Baha'i Library, put the title of this play / The Drama of the Kingdom, and it'll take you right there. Any other thoughts and reflections?
You know, there's a lot of people that still do not believe in the teachings of Baha'u'llah. And with that drama, I think it will touch a lot of hearts. Yeah, you know, with the drama, it will touch. Yes.
That's what Shoghi Effendi said, yes. And it touches a lot of hearts. And so let's do more acting and arts in any form and shape that we know and we can. By the way, my granddaughter, Ariana Deuce, I noticed that she came here as well. She's showing herself. Here she is. She's not feeling well and she's sick, but I asked for you to remember her in your healing prayer. But she came. She's very artistic, and she's going to college this year, College of Arts in Savannah. And I encourage her to particularly come and be one of those who would also be inspired of this by this play and try to act it out the best you can with your friends and associates. So Ariana, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was really inspired by it, and I've been trying myself to become more involved in the faith, and I think it was really beautiful, and I'm just glad I was here.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you came, and yeah, I look forward to what you do.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it is interesting because I remember when I read Memorial to the Faithful, Abdul Baha's short biographies of many of the early believers. One thing that struck me was that how many people he praised for their poetry. Mm-hmm. And there was even, and I'll tell this little story briefly, but so I also, in one of the early believers that he mentions, who praises particularly for his poetry, he mentions that Baha'u'llah named a night of the poets. This man had sort of talked about these things, and he named this day as a night of the poets, when poets should get together and share their poetry in a beautiful garden or something like that, and just have a very spiritual and artistic evening together. And so ironically, I'd read this probably a few months before I went on pilgrimage for the first time. And I was on pilgrimage, and I forget why, but I began but something that one of our guides said made me think to ask her if she knew anyone who knew about this, because Abdul Baha doesn't mention what night it was, you see. And she says, how did you know about that? And I explained, and she says, well, my husband has been trying to figure this out for years. She said, unfortunately, we don't seem even here in Haifa to have any records of what night this would have been. But we know that Baha'u'llah did, establish this actually. We just don't know what day of the year it was held on anymore. So interesting story about arts and the faith, Yeah,
Baha'u'llah loved poetry, and some of his prayers are in the form of poems as well. And Hidden Words, in many ways, is a long poetry story of in different passages.
Well, it's interesting because even in the English translation, I found that when I began to memorize it, that it did actually both alter my own poetic sensibilities, and it became a resource that I was able to draw upon in my writing. And this is even though, of course, it's not in the original language anymore, but still the poetic nature of the words comes through so clearly.
Yes. Any other thoughts? Friends who have not said anything, say something so I know that you're here.
All right. So thank you, Roger, for presenting us such a beautiful play. I actually got inspired because I remember almost 20 years ago when I was a college student, I actually loved writing plays and acting out on the stage. I wrote several when I was an undergraduate, and that was a lot of fun. And today it reminded me it's a powerful form to presenting or teaching. So maybe I will think about, put this on a stage or something in the future. Yeah. So I love it. Yeah. So
and also, this in many ways, this is like an outline of a play, like this lady Basil Hall that I mentioned. She developed it into 10 times longer into a play. And as you go to that, you go to that online library, you will see Abdul Baha's play followed by what this lady Basil Hall has developed it into another play, and every one of us can be inspired by Abdul Baha's writing and what she wrote, and write our own play from another perspective. Wonderful. Any final thoughts?
Actually struck a blow against the inequality of hiring practices between women and men through one of her early plays, actually. So.
Yes, that was a lot of fun. Okay. I think another powerful thought is the power of the faith, the power of the spiritual belief, heavenly food. It can turn a blind person, they can see. And also the physical, a person can be maybe in prison physically, but the heart and the soul can still be free and strong. And so
Exactly.
that concept is just very, very powerful to me. Yeah.
Mhm. That's right.
All right.
How far can a writer go to present the Baha'i ideas to people in their poetry and also in prose? I'm not clear about that. Anyone?
What do you mean by how far? I mean,
One second. Well, can I mention Abdul Baha in a book?
I don't see any reason why you wouldn't, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And what about Baha'u'llah?
Mhm.
Can his name?
I mean, there are already collections of poetry that are of Baha'i poetry and writings that are, you know, quite explicit in their Baha'i references. A few of them have been published, you know, through more mainstream presses even. I'm trying to remember the author's name, who she's written several things. It'll come to me later on, but one of her novels is basically a retelling of the story of Tahirih, and it's completely out in the open about that. There's no attempt to disguise that, you know?
Disguise it. Okay.
I think it depends on the context, right? Depends on, now sometimes people may not be comfortable with it. Instead, you're teaching the face. I mean, I know we are teaching the face, but because the message, remember the advice we got when we were in China, is the most important is to teach their message. Not make some people are against, once they feel like, oh, you're not you're the different face from me, they immediately turn the ears off. So yeah.
Well, that's what I do. I have several books of poetry that are available on Amazon.com. One of them is a very spiritual book, Kindle the Fire of My Soul. And there's just, it really kind of goes into the spiritual aspects of our faith, but without ever mentioning it, because I don't want to turn people off. And I also, particularly, I didn't want to turn the highs off and, you know, everyone say, oh, Dad, you write that stuff. But, and then also in my novels, they've all take sort of a spiritual turn, but without mentioning. I think I did comment something about Abdul Baha, but only that there was a quote that I put in there toward the end. And I thought, well, I'll put his name in there. And if I get flack, you know, I get flack. But that's the only time I've done that. So it is okay, right? Is that the consensus?
I think if you know,
it depends on the context. It is okay to mention, but then, as one of the other friends also mentioned, that for opening, for general presentations, we don't have to mention the words and the names many times. Like in this play that Abha wrote in 6 long pages, the name of Baha'u'llah or the Bab was not mentioned at all. It is just the general concept.
But the concept.
The eyes and the minds and the hearts. And the meaning of second coming and all of that. So it depends on the context.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm personally also a big fan of trusting your muse, basically. You know, I think often as an artist, you know what was given to you, basically, what it is that you were handed to produce. And so I feel like, you know, if your muse is telling you, this is one where I'm going to be explicit about what I'm talking about, then be explicit about what you're talking about. And if, you know, I mean, I just think you have to have faith that what you've been given is what you're supposed to be producing, basically, you know.
Well, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for being here and for your participation.
Thank you, Roger.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and We are going to have to wrap up, I'm afraid, because there's an assembly meeting right after this. We can't drag on late today, I'm afraid. But before we do so, let me make a few quick announcements. Today's program has been recorded and posted to the YouTube channel entitled South DeKalb Baha'i Unity Center, where you can view it and invite others to view it as well. From members of the Baha'i faith, you are warmly encouraged to make a financial contribution to the South DeKalb Baha'i Fund, the Sandy Springs Baha'i Fund, and the National Baha'i Fund through the online contribution system at ocs.baha'i.us, or to mail a check to the Baha'i Unity Center at 2370 Wesley Chapel Road, Decatur, Georgia, 30035. We want to give many thanks to everyone who worked together to make today's program possible. Our wonderful speaker, who's been with us, I think, 3 times now, right? And our volunteer readers, Barbara Hennix, who keeps everything here moving, and the spiritual assemblies of the Baha'is of South DeKalb and Sandy Springs. And of course, a thank you to all of you who are here for sharing your morning with us. So I'm Stephen Boyanton, and until next time, stay safe and well. We're going to end now with a closing prayer for the departed. If there's anyone who'd like to, you can read that for us, and if not, I'll read it for us.
I can read it if you want.
All right, if you want to.
Yeah. Oh my God, O thou forgiver of sins, bestower of gifts, dispeller of afflictions, verily I beseech thee to forgive the sins of such as have abandoned the physical garment and have ascended to the spiritual world, O my Lord. Purify them from trespasses, dispel their sorrows, and change their darkness into light. Cause them to enter into the garden of happiness, cleanse them with the most pure water, and grant them to behold thy splendors on the loftiest mount. Abdul Baha.
Thank you, everyone. Aloha.
Allah, Father, friend.
Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you. Aloha.